A very warm welcome to you from Equa Marketing. This presentation is brought to you by Equa.com, a leader in digital marketing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Growing Dentist podcast show. Today, I'm super excited to have a young 29-year-old entrepreneur who is hygienist plus a serial entrepreneur who has helped hundreds of dentists, with his different businesses. His name is Elijah Desmond. He's, among other things, the founder of SmilesAtSea.com. Welcome to Growing Dentist.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so for those of us who don't know a lot about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as to how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, I will first off tell you by letting you know my passion and where I come from. When I was very young, I tested out of high school, tested out of college at 15 years old, and I began my career as a motivational speaker. And that is my passion. That's what I stand for, is helping kids and helping people that you don't know. And it kind of transformed throughout the years into the dental industry. But I'm from Ohio, raised on a big farm, graduated from The Ohio State University, and started my career in after graduating 6 years of college. Went over to Honolulu, Hawaii, and lived there for 3.5 years. Started a dental temp agency, and I figured I would go and temp myself in these practices instead of only sending my team out. So I had built up to about a team of 80, and I had about we'll say 300 dental practices, between 300 and 400. And I was basically sending everybody all around the islands to temp and then get permanent positions. So I decided I wouldn't go around and do the same thing because it sounded fun to go office to office. So within a couple of years, we'll say 2.5, 3 at the most, I had ended up practicing in over 300 offices, and I'd learned so many things, and I'm still learning till today. And, I started a couple businesses. In 2012, I moved to Las Vegas. And I actually, as I told you, I'm a motivational speaker, and I love speaking. And I was approached by Invisalign and asked to speak. So I ended up speaking, say, a little less than 50 times in the next 2 years for Invisalign, and then started a couple other businesses. And then I started speaking for Straumann. Spoke probably around 50 times for Straumann, and then I became independent as a speaker. And, since we'll say it's about going over a little over a year now, I'm speaking in 7 to 12 different cities. I'd like it to be 4 to 6 like it used to, but I'm speaking all over the place. And I basically put a twist on speaking where I'm doing a lot of motivational speaking in dentistry and making it clinical enough so they get CEs as well. And then I created my last business, Smiles at Sea, a dental cruise surrounded around having fun. And I'll tell you what, in the past couple of years, I've really changed my journey, right? Before it was all about me, and, how can I grow my business? And I like to call it the rat race that we're in. And in the past couple of years, I've really changed my thinking and my platform to where now it's about you, and helping as many people as I possibly can. Started a Facebook group called Trapped in an Op. Meaning trapped in a clinical operatory, but trapped in an op. And now I'm mentoring hundreds of dental professionals that are doing so many things with their careers, such as speaking, consulting, they're a dentrepreneur like me, or they're doing research, or they want to get into sales, or they have a product or some sort of business. And basically I'm helping with some others to mentor them along the right path during the journey. And so that's basically, everything I stand for. So it's motivating kids, and now it's, really motivating and mentoring dental professionals in our community. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just looked you up, Trapped in an Op. You have 5,900 members. So probably I just sent a request to join your group. So that's great. So you do like hundreds of things, right? That's amazing. And I guess that's something that perhaps can be kind of, an inspiration for others, who feel that they can only do one thing. Of course, the key is it's not about doing how many things, it's really doing them as best as you can and really, growing and making a difference. So,
Yeah.
that's great.
I totally agree with you, and that is something I think that I'm actually learning myself is, doing one thing or a few things really really good. As a serial entrepreneur, I also like to call them an entrepreneur with ADD. You get caught up in doing so many things because your mind thinks very broad, very very wide, and I'm a visionary, and it's tough for a lot of people, even dentists, to focus in on one thing really good. I feel that some of the best dentists out there, they're in niche markets, right? So they're not just doing general dentistry with everything. They're focusing on Invisalign or ortho in their practice, or they're focusing on Botox, or they're focusing on implants, or maybe they're focusing on, maybe it's the experience. So maybe you have the experience in the dental office that's just mind blowing. So they're focusing on one or maybe two things the most. And to me, I feel that those are some of the most successful dental practices that I've seen.
Absolutely, you are right. I have been a serial entrepreneur, and I guess in my journey, I started after getting fired 4 times in a row back in 2002, and then till 2008, I was making every book under the sun. And one of the mistakes I was making was it was about me, and usually when it's about me, it doesn't work. And then Dale Carnegie had this amazing quote. He said, "The world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking. In that world, a person who focuses on helping others get what they want has no competition." And he said it like 60, 70 years ago, but it's still true. And so that was my second phase. And then I guess in 2013, I woke up and pretty much what I wanted in terms of quote unquote success, I had. And then I'm like, now what? And so then I started searching for purpose and why am I here and what's my purpose. And I realized kind of like you, I'm a visionary, and I think of big ideas. So my big idea is to how do you have 1,000 times more impact in the next 30 years than I did in the last 10. I didn't define it as money or revenues. I defined it as impact. And so that's kind of something that's exciting and interesting and keeps me challenged, because 1,000 times is something you can't do doing the same old thing like you did yesterday. So it's interesting. So I went from purpose to helping others get what they went from me to helping others get what they want, and now more towards purpose. And so I think we all grow, and I think that's the thing. The theme of my podcast is growing dentist, and I find people grow in time, money, purpose, and relationships. So when I start working with a young dentist, a lot of times they're like, I need any kind of collections. I don't care what it is, because I need to pay the bills. So that's their mindset. Then they're like, no, there's a difference between any kind of collections to profits. Then they're like, no, I have kids, I have a family, I have responsibilities. Now time becomes more important. Then again, it changes again, and they're like, I want to enjoy what I do. I don't want to do everything. I only enjoy certain kinds of things. So that kind of taps into purpose and meaning. Also, they start realizing they don't want to, work with everybody. They want to work with people who they enjoy working with. So they start asking questions like, who do I want to be a hero to? And so that it's all, it's interesting. So I guess as human beings, we are first humans, right? Whether we are a dentist or whether we are an entrepreneur, we are first humans. So as a human, we all want the same things, which is we want, a bigger life, more freedoms, more options when it comes to time, money, purpose, and relationships. So I'm really glad to hear you go through that, even though, you're only 29 and you have a huge, life ahead of you. I'm really excited to hear somebody like you, doing what you've done, in such an early age. So it's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's get back into, providing some, in addition to providing inspiration from this conversation, providing some hardcore value, right? Because a lot of dentists want ideas that they can take and implement today, that they think, that will help them, make a difference. And I know you and I talked about implants, and implants is, if done right, a good way to make a difference for others, and it's also a way to grow your practice. Now, it doesn't mean that it's for everyone. because there are a lot of people who are doing quote unquote implants, they're not doing a good job, and then the patient suffers and their reputation suffers and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about implants. What's your experience in it? What have you seen, the more you have worked on it?
Absolutely. So, mind you, I graduated from Ohio State University in 2009, and while there is a division that focuses on implants there, and it is important, as a dental professional coming up, it wasn't extremely relevant. And what I've seen over the past, 8 years is dentistry is moving away from, bridges, and it's moving towards implants. And, why harm other teeth when you could simply replace them or move them around a little bit with Invisalign or, any kind of orthodontics and then place the implant. So I want to say in 8 years, if there was anything that has changed dramatically, or I would say anything that has been a must-have in your dental practice, I would say actually the first thing is intraoral cameras. Sidetrack.
Right.
That is a must in a dental practice. And I would say the second thing is dental implants, because dental implants are becoming kind of a standard of care. I mean, when people hear about harming, other opposing teeth when they could be perfectly kept, normal, opposed to displacing a dental implant, it's like a standard of care. So to me, going through college now, and I don't know if they're doing this, excuse my ignorance, but going through college, that should be part of the curriculum. So there's crowns and bridges. Well, there should also be implants, because that is 2017. That is one of the most searched words on Google for dentistry. And let me go ahead and say, not just keeping up with the times to go ahead and get your training for dental implants, let's keep up with what the patients want. Right? So the patients are obviously number one, and let's face it, they're asking about implants more and more and more, and they're actually very knowledgeable about dental implants. To not have them in your practice, to me, is crazy. And so I think that, if I were to give a recommendation, a strong recommendation to dentists out there, is go and get your training so you should be able to place dental implants. And here's another thing is that, you have to start to get comfortable. A lot of, one of my companies, we focus on just dental implant marketing, and many offices, even if they have dental implants, they can't take on big cases. And so, I always say you have to start somewhere. You have to have the ability to do them, so you need to get trained. However, the only way to get better is to do more. So some can't do, total edentulous teeth, and some can't do some of the big cases. However, you have to start somewhere and work your way up. If you don't do it, then you're never going to do it. Maybe you get a mentor, and maybe an oral surgeon or a periodontist. They help you do this, and that's very possible. But you know what? Here's a really cool thing. Now in 2017, you're starting to see way more specialists in offices. So why not just have the specialists come on board to your practice 1 or 2 days a week, and then all of a sudden things change. Now all of a sudden you're giving them, between 40 and 60%, and you're keeping the rest profit. But more than anything, they're doing it in-house. So I see a huge shift in our profession to dental offices doing everything in-house. I'll give you a perfect example. Dr. Craig Spodak, which, oh, by the way, if you haven't interviewed him on a podcast, you got to do it. He got the ADA Dental Office of the Year Award, I want to say at 14 or 15. His practice, first off, he has 50 employees. But he has, I want to say 4 GPs under one roof, 20 op facility, 20,000 square foot green building. But he has 4 GP dentists. He has an oral surgeon. He has a periodontist. He has an endodontist, and he has an orthodontist. And so his business is the busiest place that I've seen yet. And so one of the things that they really focus on is dental implants. The second thing that they focus on is their culture. So when you walk into some offices, you see a big dark cloud, right? That dark cloud, and you have the energy vampires in that office, and they're infecting people. And there's a cancer in the office that's spreading fast, and it's called negativity. And that happens in a lot of practices, and it's a reason why people go to work unhappy. So one of the things that Dr. Spodek does is he focuses on culture and team building and uplifting people. And when we're walking around his practice, you don't know how many times that I hear him say, "I appreciate you. Thanks for being you. Thank you so much." And he has a big smile on his face. The culture mixed with all of the people that he has in his office as far as specialists and how happy they are, that is what makes that office, to me, one of the best offices in the entire country, Spodek Dental Group.
Absolutely. Now, talking about culture and talking about implants, what's your take on culture? Why is it important, and what do you think the successful practices do from a culture standpoint?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'll start with when you talk about culture, you start with the leader in the practice, and the leader really sets the tone. And the leader, here's a really cool thing: the leader doesn't necessarily have to be the dentist, right? And the leader doesn't have to be one. The leader could be many, as long as they're leading by example. And I think that that's extremely important. A lot of dentists, they come to me and say, how do I be a better leader? And sometimes the answer to that is to be a better leader, you simply delegate your leadership. So if you can't lead necessarily, that means that you probably should be delegating your leadership to somebody else. And something that I think is awesome is that in many practice, you have many leaders. The leaders are in the back, clinical. They're in the front. They're part of the clinical team. They're all over. And that culture is a culture that is it really runs itself. And another thing that I think is really cool is that these leaders are always happy. They're setting the tone in the morning by showing appreciation and showing thanks to everybody. They're helping each other. The culture in the office is everything, and it really starts from a leadership perspective, and making them all feel appreciated, making sure that everybody's happy, and making sure everybody works as a team, and also having your team involved in many decisions in the practice, so everybody feels a sense of unity, a sense of one. And like I said, you need to have Craig on this on your podcast, because he is the man when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would love to interview him. What's his name again? Craig?
Dr. Craig Spodek.
Craig Kodak, you said, right?
Spodek, like Spodak.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, talking about culture, I have also learned a few things about culture, and a couple of my insights is I studied the best clients I have and the most successful, and they tend to have three mindsets. One is they appreciate themselves and others. So they're always looking at the half full side of life. They're looking for positives, and then they build on it, as opposed to the other negative mindset people. They're like, always horizon is in front of you, right? It's never behind you. They're like, well, right. I'm not at my horizon yet, and who do I blame, right? And unfortunately, the horizon keeps moving forward. You get closer to it, it moves forward. A practice that was making 300,000 is happy making 500. But once they get to 500, they want to make 700, right? So you're never there. And unfortunately, a lot of us are trained to look at the gap between their horizon and where they are, and then feel bad about it, and then of course make everybody else feel bad about it. But the people who are successful in life, I find they look back and say, hey, I used to be 300, now I'm doing 500. Who do I thank for this? Who do I appreciate for this? Right?
Good point.
It's a different mindset, and I think that's a very powerful mindset I see with all of my most successful people. They appreciate others, and usually it comes with age. A lot of times I find people get nicer as they get older. And the second mindset I notice of my most successful clients is they are growth oriented. So they again kind of going back to that appreciation, the positive mindset. They're looking at the half full side of life and saying, how do I make it better? They are always, even when they get beaten up with a challenge, let's say something happens in the environment where all of a sudden their business drops, they look at it, okay, how do I turn this into an opportunity? How do I turn this into an advantage for my business? If you look at Apple, for example, their renaissance happened, in the worst recession. When everybody else was cutting back and firing people, Apple was investing and, building this mega platform, the iPhone and everything else. Right. So they turn everything into an opportunity. They look at the positive or the full side, half full side of life. And the last thing I notice is they're team players. So they kind of realize they are good at some things and others are good at other things. So they tend to get the best of people. They don't micromanage. They delegate. They listen, and they know what their boundaries are, and they understand other people's strengths, and then they leverage it. So instead of me working, trying to do the things I'm weak at, I do the things I'm strong at, and then I help get somebody else. So with us also, we have 200 clients, and our 90% of our clients stay for life. They write big checks to us. And the reason is because they tend to work as a team with us. They tend to listen to us. They tend to, appreciate us, and they work with us as a team. So it's interesting that you point out, culture and mindsets.
And one last thing about that culture and really telling it to the world. Something else that I'll focus in on, he's one of my friends, Craig, Dr. Spodak, but something that's really unique with his office is that, how like a lot of people, there's like ads out there, $500 off, $1,000 off, these discounts to bring people in. And what's crazy is he brings people in based off of his culture. So like when you see a Spodak Dental Group ad, here's what it is. If you're a veteran, come into our Veterans Day Dental Care Day on July the 12th. And that's marketed all over. Or we really care about stopping cancer. Let's go ahead and stop your cancer today, and here's how we're going. Or we're going to do a kids dental week where everybody comes in, all the kids come in the community, and we do free dental care. That's the type of advertisement that he does, and I think it's mind-blowing. And so that's the type of patient that he attracts, which is awesome. And then you see his team doing a lot of team-building events, but they're team-building with the community. So they're doing, half marathons, 5K, runs for a cause. That's the type of culture that he has in his office, and that's what he puts out to the community. So he gets patients that are willing to pay more money for the right type of place, for the right type of culture. And I think it's amazing what he's doing.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look him up. Interesting. When we talk about culture, I think this also kind of shifts, right? I think most entrepreneurs, dentists are entrepreneurs. They start out as I have to do it all kind of a mindset. And then they realize they don't enjoy everything. They only enjoy some things. And then they realize they need other people's help. And my mindset for a long time was I have to be the Superman saving the world every day. But I realized that doesn't scale. There's only one of you, so you can't be the Superman. So the next thing I kind of realized is I need to help other people be Superman and Superwomen, being the best in their area so they can do magic for our clients, right? So,
Right.
And I think that's something I'm starting to notice at some of the most successful people. They're very humble, they are so kind, and they're so much about others. Like I have a client of mine, and he's he treats his patients like guests, and he literally calls them guests, and he's like, I want to treat my patients the way I would treat somebody who's a guest at my house. And then he hires people who have the same mindset, right? And then he also treats them like part of his family. Like somebody came and told him, one of his team members, most of us are moms, what if we start early, like 6:37, and go home at 2:30? He's like, awesome. And they've been doing it for years now, and their production hasn't dipped. It actually has grown. People are happy, and nobody ever leaves his office because he cares so much about them, just like they care about him. So I think culture is sometimes a two-way street. You can't manipulate culture. You can't, pretend to have, pretend to, care about others. You know what I mean? It's just either you do or you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Let's talk about customer experience as the last nugget that we can perhaps focus on. Tell me a little bit about some of the best offices you have had the chance of seeing or working with, and what do they do differently?
Absolutely. So I want to say that the customer experience, I'll tell you, in 2017, there's a good opportunity for you to stick out, and you can stick out by doing the best for your customers through a customer experience. And so I will say that there are a few teams that do it really well that I've seen, and I've worked with we'll say now well over 500 practices. And I would say the best teams, I would say it starts with the dentist laying the foundation. So foundation is everything. And if you don't have the foundation for your practice, it's difficult to provide good customer service because you're still focusing on internal issues. And so the first thing is foundation. The second thing is and what I would encourage you all to do is break down all of the different touch points for your patient. So for what is a touch point? A touch point would be going to a patient visiting you, finding you on the web on the internet. And so what's your website look like? What is that experience like? Then from there, what is your phone calls like? Do you have somebody that's grouchy answering the phone that shouldn't be up there? Maybe you should think about replacing them for the first 2 hours in the morning with your bubbly assistant. And that's honest, really what you should do. What about after the phone call? What about when they come into your practice? What's it look like? What's it smell like? Is the person on the phone and not even acknowledging the new patient who's walking through the door ready to start their patient experience? Are you giving them anything? Is the coffee in the waiting room, or is the coffee in the back with you? I think all of those are extremely important. And then the patient experience all the way through, the clinical experience, then the follow-up, and then, the recare, and how do you communicate with them in between? All of that is the customer experience. It's extremely important, and that is one of the things that I speak on throughout the country is customer experience. And I'll tell you this, if you can't go to any of my courses personally, the best customer experience course to ever go to is hands down Disney Institute. Oh my goodness. I went there for a week-long training here back in January, and I was just mind blown with how they have their entire workshop. So I would highly recommend going there for the customer experience. And I actually, when you go to a customer experience course, everything is about implementation. It's no good unless you implement it. That's extremely important. And so for me, on my biggest business, which is Smiles at Sea, that's what I focus on, is giving the overall best customer experience. So if you come on, one of my cruise ships, you're coming to get your CEs, but you're also there at my house. So I have to give you the best customer experience from start to finish. And so that Disney Institute course is not even just good for dentists. It's good for anybody to go to. You could go to it, your listeners, any business owners or anybody in the field of customer service. I highly recommend to go there. It's life-changing.
Yeah, I'm just on the website right now. Which particular course are you referring to? I think they have a bunch of courses.
Quality service. That's the one.
Oh, quality service. I see it. They have leadership excellence, employee engagement, quality service, and business excellence.
Quality service.
And quality service, is that like a one-day course, or do they have different versions of it?
I took the 4-day course, like the week course.
All right. Perfect. Actually, yeah, they do have multi-day course pricing and details. So is that like an immersive experience? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a hands-on. So they teach you in the classroom, then they take you to the field and they show you exactly what it's like. Yep.
Awesome. That's amazing. I know we have to wrap up at some point. I can keep talking to you, and perhaps you could come back at some point. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, or say hi and talk to you about something, or what website should they go to? How do they get a hold of you or your companies?
Absolutely. I think the easiest one is to go to ElijahDesmond.com. So ElijahDesmond.com. That's the easiest to remember. You can go there and get a hold of me there, or contact me at Elijah@basicdentistry.com. Perfect.
Thank you very much, Elijah, for talking to me today. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yes.
And thanks everyone for listening to another amazing episode of Growing Dentist podcast show featuring Elijah Desmond.
All right. Thank you so much, Naren.